Fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you. Glad you came too. Like you said, when you know you got moves. You spit game and you know you spit.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fastlane Collective. I am your host, Brianna, and we've got Yasmin this weekend here with us. Daniela, she's out. She's traveling home from another E-Prix, so she won't be joining us this week. But Yasmin, you weren't with us last week. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad to be back and talking about a race. Like, we've had a month, no race, and I'm glad to not just try and talk about things happening off track. Like, we actually get to talk about what's happened on track. So I'm pumped. I'm ready for today. But before, how are you, Brianna? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Was in New York City this past weekend. Had so much fun. Got to see some shows, some entertainment, some music. Got some shopping in there as well, and even seeing some friends. So it was a good time. And I stopped by the watch party that SS Magazine and Turn 14 podcast were having. So shout out to those guys in SS Magazine. I wasn't able to go watch the race live because of the timing. They changed the race time and it just didn't work out with our plans. But yeah, it was cool. Beautiful weather. I always love New York City. I mean, the vibes are strong there. I just love it so much. I wish I could live there, honestly. But I only live like 3 hours away, so I'll take that. I'll take that over being not living there right now. But yeah, it was a good one. And I too, Yasmin, am so pumped to be talking about racing again. It feels like a million years. But I feel like everyone was just like, oh man, we need another race and we need it now, because if we don't, we're all going through extreme withdrawal. And there's so much to talk about in this race this weekend, which we're going to dive into. But really quick, we just have 2 bits of news that we want to talk about. Something really exciting that was confirmed by the FIA president this week, Mohammed Ben Salim, was that the V8 engines will be returning to Formula One 2030-31. This is pretty exciting and news that honestly I didn't think we'd ever see V8 engines back in Formula One again. Yasmin, how do you feel about having the roar of the V8 back, hopefully in 2030?
I'm so excited for this. Like, V8s. What? Like, I thought we were kind of just done with V8s, and I know everyone keeps saying, oh, we need like the noise back in F1, which we definitely do. But yeah, so exciting to hear. And I keep forgetting that 2030 is like 4 years away. It's not long away. So
I know it's not that far, which is crazy.
I was like, 2030, oh, we've got ages to wait. And I went, we're in 2026. It's actually not long. So I really hope that it still happens. It doesn't get pushed back. And I'm excited to kind of see what they do with the V8 and how that kind of plays with, we have more of a battery powered cars now, so very excited, but we don't know too much about it yet, so it'll be a story that we'll definitely keep our eye on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was my first question too when I saw it announced. It's like, oh, how's this going to work with the new kind of hybrid era we're entering in? That was another reason why I was kind of surprised to see that they were looking to bring it back. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and how these V8s work in this new hybrid era. But still very exciting to have that roar, that engine back for sure. As we mentioned just a little bit earlier, the part of the news this week was all around the weather, because there were already talks about the race possibly being canceled on Sunday due to extreme weather forecasts. Now, listen, I have been to Florida multiple times in my life. I have not been to Miami, but we have family that lives there. And man, when it rains in Florida, guys, it rains. I don't know if you saw any of the clips, but it was coming down early Sunday morning. And obviously a big reason that they were thinking of moving the race around or canceling the race was not strictly because of the severe rain, but more around the lightning. Obviously, it's very dangerous. Don't want anybody to be outside or driving in giant metal boxes in the rain with lightning. Yasmin, did you see any of the clips of how bad it was raining before the race?
Oh yeah, I saw all the clips, I think, of the rain, because that's the type of downpour you don't get over here in Ireland or the UK. So I was like, oh my God, this is like torrential rain. And I really didn't think that we would have a race, to be honest. I thought it was going to be cancelled, and I was even surprised that F2 went ahead. They were kind of like, I guess, well, we'll see how they do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm surprised it went. I really was surprised it went ahead. And then when it was pushed back 3 or no, I'm trying to like
Forward, yeah. I think it was
forward
forward
3
3
hours.
hours. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, are they just gonna like push it forward and then they're gonna push it more forward and then they're just gonna cancel it because it's happened before? But I'm
Yeah.
glad we didn't have like a spa where they sent the mountain track and then we just go round and round in circles and then we stop.
Yeah. And especially like the amount of rain that is coming down. Also, Miami is that whole area is very prone to flooding. I remember actually my husband went a couple years ago and they had a similar situation. It was like beautiful sunny day. And then all of a sudden it just like dumped water, like inches of water. And my husband was even saying like, the streets are flooded. Like there's 5-6 inches of rain. Like I'm walking almost like half of my leg in water. It rains in Miami. It doesn't just come down, it floods. And obviously, as we know, this track is basically in a parking lot. So not a ton of water runoff drainage around. So yeah, I agree. I think it was a smart move to move it up and not kind of like mess around with that weather. And honestly, they got so lucky. No rain really at all during the race. Were you surprised by that as well, Yasmin? Did you think, okay, maybe we'll still have a little bit of rain here and there, even though they've moved it up?
Yeah, like we heard throughout the radio a couple times. I remember Bordelato's radio was like, we're gonna have rain in 5 minutes, but it's gonna be light rain. And I was like, Miami?
Yeah.
Light rain? So yeah, I'm honestly surprised. At least at some point in the race, we didn't have like a torrential downpour. But yeah, very lucky guys. Because again, I think that race could have just been absolute carnage, even more carnage than what it was if we had
Yes.
rain.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy. So they really did a good job avoiding that rain and it didn't really affect much, but kind of interesting little twist to the weekend that I don't think any of us were expecting. Really quick, guys, I want to talk about our sponsor, which I'm so proud to be the owner of, which is Grand Prix Girl. If you didn't know, Grand Prix Girl really started with a simple frustration. It's me and my mom. We've loved F1 for so long, but we couldn't find merchandise made for women, which kind of blew our minds, seeing that women make up now over 43% of the F1 fan base. So we decided to make our own. Yes, that's right. We went into business together and we started making our own F1 merch. The brand is called Grand Prix Girl. Grand Prix Girl offers jewelry in race day style designs exclusively for female F1 fans. We keep you guys top of mind every time we are designing something, and our brand is truly all around female Formula One and motorsports fans. You can shop our best-selling products like our paddock pendant and even our new double stack bracelets that just came out at grandprixgirl.com. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok as well at Grand Prix Girl, and we hope you come join us over in our community. We are really proud to sponsor this podcast, and we are so, so proud and honored to bring you merch made for female fans. So again, go check us out at grandprixgirl.com and back to the podcast. So yeah, let's get into the race because there is so much to talk about. I mean, we had a hard time trying to narrow it down here about how we were going to talk about everything that happened. We had no rain. We had DNFs. We had spins. We had all kinds of crazy things, crashes, just it was all in this race. But first, we really want to talk about the big thing that has been on everybody's lips since the season started, which is how these new regulations have affected the racing and the quality of it and the safety of it. If you don't know by now, the FIA and Formula One made changes to the new regulations that took place this weekend. And I think a lot of us were not just excited to see F1 back and cars back on track, but a lot of us were really anxious to see, would these changes make a difference? And personally, Yasmin, I'm going to say yeah. I was very surprised at actually how well it seemed like these regulations really did fix some of the issues that we as fans and also drivers have been complaining about. The thing that stuck out to me the most was there wasn't as much of that yo-yoing that we've been talking about, where cars are just able to, like, you know, pass, and you're just basically in a passing fight with one driver. You're not able to pass them and really kind of get away. I felt like that was much better, as well as, you know, that then helps have not having like the 2x2 cars just like going down the track like Noah's Ark or something like that. I felt like it was improved, and I know a lot of the drivers felt the same. How did you feel, Yasmin, after watching the race? Did you feel like, oh, wow, this felt more genuine, less artificial racing, and more kind of back to the F1 that we're used to seeing?
Do you think that it felt like there was less artificial racing? And again, this was only the first race with these kind of changes, so we might get to Montreal and things completely change again and we're back at square one. But at least for Miami, like, that race was class. Like, I loved it, and I was on the edge of my seat watching it. And it really did feel like moves stuck instead of like that yo-yoing that you were talking about, Brianna. Like, I had to stop watching the race halfway through because I had to leave and go out, but I didn't want to leave. I was like, I want to keep watching this race. Where maybe like at the start of the season, I would have been like, oh well, I'll just catch up later. So I really do think this is an improvement, a good step forward in the direction to more entertaining racing. And it's only the fourth race that we've had this season so far. So I think it's quite a testament to like the FIA. And again, we did have that long break where they had more time to kind of figure things out. But we're still early in the season if you really think about it. So this is a good improvement. And hopefully FIA don't fuck it up. But we still are going to make improvements.
I'm sure. Well, like, honestly, like you said, you're right. We've only seen this play out once on one certain type of track. We'll see how that continues to Montreal and the other races as well. But at least this gives me hope, positivity. They used this long break to their advantage, and it seems to have worked. It seems to have stuck. And I definitely agree with you, Yasmin. There were overtakes that were happening that were sticking, and also just happening because of the driver's talent, this late braking, this kind of stuff. I was definitely clocking a lot more of that in my head as, you know, the race was going on. I was like, oh, wow, that was a really great dive into the corner with the late braking, and moves were able to stick. So I think it was just a great improvement all around, and hopefully they'll, you know, take their learnings from this weekend and maybe make some more tweaks, maybe not. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, there were some other regulation changes and tweaks that made their debut this weekend in Miami, like the race assistance and that kind of thing, which I think definitely helped when we saw the race start. That off the line speed, we know there were definitely a couple of teams that were struggling with just kind of getting off the line quick, Ferrari not being one of them. But there were a couple ones like Red Bull, for example. I felt like they got a much better start. So positive all around. I've seen positive feedback as well from other prominent people in the F1 space, other podcasters like Matt and Tommy, for example. I was listening to their race recap as well, and they were quite encouraged and hopeful. And I saw a lot of people making remarks saying, like, this feels like the racing that we want. So yeah, and I agree. I think it made a big difference, and I hope it continues like that. I think there was also another thing, though, that made a big difference, which was definitely the upgrades that we saw. Now, this was expected just because of this huge long break that we had. We were expecting everybody to bring up upgrades, and boy, did they. Every team, except for Haas and Aston Martin, brought upgrades this weekend. And we're not just talking one upgrade or two upgrades. We're talking double-digit upgrades. Ferrari, for example, brought 11 upgrades, where Red Bull and McLaren brought 7 upgrades. That is a massive amount of upgrades to bring. Yasmin, do you think that this is just a testament to this long break being used kind of to these teams' advantages?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you have I think it was like 5 weeks in the end we had off of F1,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to sit in that factory and go, right, what can we do to increase our chances? But like 11 upgrades is a lot. Like, is there any more upgrades to bring for the rest of the season? Like, you've done it all. You've upgraded everything you can.
Yeah.
So it is positive because, again, I do think that the upgrades was another reason why we had great racing. Still don't really understand why Aston Martin went, you know what, no, we're good. We are
Yeah.
really slow, slower than an F2 car, but we're good. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it. We don't need to bring anything.
Don't you worry. We will get to them later in the podcast. But yeah, surprising. And Haas didn't bring any upgrades either, which was also surprising as well. Seeing that they didn't really seem to be struggling as hard as some other teams were. I kind of question mark there around, why didn't you bring any upgrades at all? So really interesting, but I think the upgrades helped a lot for sure. Let's dive into kind of team by team here, performance, but also how some of those upgrades played into their performance this weekend, like you mentioned, contribute to some really great racing. I think the two that stood out to me the most, Red Bull and McLaren. Their upgrades that they brought, I think, really helped them a lot. Red Bull brought a lot, even from like a different side pod. And I think we saw Max Verstappen really start to trust the car again this weekend, and watching him kind of take some really risky moves that I don't think we'd see from him if he didn't trust the car. And they were kind of struggling in the mid pack, sometimes lower. And we saw them up there fighting again for the podium. Yasmin, how did you think, looking at the way Max was acting this weekend and also the way he was driving this weekend, that these upgrades really came into play and helped that team progress further up the pack?
Yeah, overall, well, again, we had Isaac crash and,
Ugh.
5-second penalty for Verstappen, but removing all that, they did seem to have the pace. Both of them did, and both of them seemed quite confident in the car as well, which at least for Max, like this year and last year, he was having complaints about the car and just hasn't been himself and hasn't been happy. But I thought we got like a little bit of like Max back in his prime. Not he's not in his prime, but like the moves that he was doing, like he just had that confidence where he could put that car in these positions where he really had to push the car to get up the points and to make those overtakes. And I even was listening to an interview with Isaac who said that he felt like he really had the pace, and that's why he was so frustrated when he did crash and when he did clip that corner, because he was like, I could have really gotten good points for my team. I think he said something along the lines that he just pushed the car too much because he, again, knew he had the pace. So it's positive for Red Bull, which I didn't think I'd be saying coming back into the season. Basically, before we went off, we were like, Red Bull are doing good. So
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that they're getting there. Let's just try not to have any race incidents or crash, and then maybe we might get some good points.
Yeah, watching Isaac Hadjar sit in that cockpit after he crashed, it was like, for me, I was like, oh, Isaac. And part of me was like, play the race audio, play it. He was furious. I haven't seen him that angry, and we've already seen him have a crash or two in Formula One before. And you could tell when drivers act like that, it's because they know that was 100% on them. And it's more, you're seeing that reaction too because of the disappointment, not just in themselves, but they know they had something and aren't able to deliver. And obviously, Isaac is under pressure. He's in that second seat. You don't want to crash out like that. You don't want to damage a car and cost the team money and points, especially when you could have gotten some points that weekend. So yeah, it was a little painful to watch, but yeah, I feel like they could have come home with some really great points if he didn't have crashed. And I agree with you too. Watching Max drive, he just looked more in his form, which tells me like he was more comfortable. But also, he had said in interviews as well, like with the upgrades that were brought to the Red Bull, just a huge total turnaround, were his words. So you have to know it was a pretty big change that he felt in the car, to say like something like a total turnaround. We know Max doesn't use his words lightly. So it made me happy to see, but also, so we have more people fighting at the front right now, which is exciting to see as well. McLaren, I also was shocked to see them up there this weekend. I know they haven't been way behind, but coming off of obviously a Constructors' Championship and having their Driver Championship, we expected them to be up there a little bit more fighting for podiums, and the first couple races this year didn't seem like that. But this weekend, they seemed way more back in their form. Even they didn't get a win. I know Lando Norris was very disappointed. He said they should have won. He's not sure why they didn't. He thinks strategy was kind of not playing into their favor this weekend. But Yasmin, looking at McLaren and just kind of the big leap they've seemed to make over this break and with these upgrades, do you think we're going to see them up there at the front more now, fighting Kimi Antonelli and the leaders?
100%. I definitely think McLaren are going to be fighting for another championship, are going to really try and bring it to Mercedes. Like, they are the one to beat at the minute. And even Lando Norris said on like the end of the race, how did we not win this? Like, how do we not win this? Like, we were like that close.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all down now, I think, to strategy, really, when these cars are so close. Like, again, Red Bull are getting back up there. McLaren are, and maybe Ferrari. I don't have much hope for Ferrari ever, so, to be honest.
Don't
I
say
just
that,
doing the strategy.
Yasmin.
I just brought strategy into a conversation with Ferrari. Do you think I have confidence there? No.
Fine.
But yeah, back to McLaren. I really do think that it was just like Lando getting undercutted by Antonelli in the pits. So I've forgotten what the question was, but we're getting there.
No. Yeah.
And it's just really exciting to watch. I get so like giddy at the minute, like thinking about where we can go with this season. At the start of the season, I really thought, well, it's just kind of going to be a write-off with trying to figure out these cars, but maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe this is exciting.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this. I know like everyone is like, oh man, the timing of this break obviously so weird and it wasn't planned. And it almost felt detrimental to the sport. We had those 3 races, a lot of criticism around the quality of racing we're getting, the type of racing we're getting, the safety precautions that weren't being taken. And I felt like, man, this could ruin Formula One. I was really worried over the break, to be honest, and seeing a lot of the reactions from people online and fans saying, like, I'm just not as excited. I was like, man, if they don't get this right, and this Miami race doesn't go over well, like, we could be in some big trouble as a sport and a fan base in general. But after this weekend, watching all these upgrades come into play, watching the regs kind of change and make the racing a little bit closer to what we are used to, I have hope, especially like you mentioned, like McLaren probably going to be now they're at the top fighting. The first 3 races I watched, I was like, is McLaren going to win a race this year? Like, I am worried for them. But after this weekend, I think, they're even more hungry and ready to go. And with these upgrades, even more confident that they can get back up top. I think, too, we have to really give a big clap of congratulations also to Oscar Piastri. Even though he got a little lucky there at the end with Charles Leclerc's little spinaroo, still, he had a really fantastic race, a great race, a good sprint race as well, which is confidence boosting. But I felt like he just kind of strategized well this weekend, and even though he was kind of like hanging back, he really held that car together and just put in consistent performance. So then toward the end of the race, he could really bring that speed and what he needed to kind of work his way up there to the top. He was almost like just waiting patiently in the wings, which I know with a lot of these drivers is a difficult thing to do. They just want to attack right away. But I think he did a great job and obviously got on the podium with a little bit of luck, but also hard work. So yeah, Red Bull and McLaren overall this weekend, I felt like had the most improved. We're going to give them the most improved reward for coming back with these regulations, the regs changes. I think I'm more confident now that Red Bull and McLaren will be up there fighting with Mercedes and Ferrari for sure. So that's really exciting. Like you mentioned, of course, Max Verstappen got that penalty after the race. 5 seconds didn't affect where he landed there at the end. How do you think, Max Verstappen switched to that hard tire early in the race? Do you think if he wouldn't have switched to that hard tire and taken it to the end, that we would have seen him possibly on a podium, Yasmin?
Ooh. When I was watching the race, that was running through my mind of if he just didn't switch to that hard tire, maybe he could have been on the podium. But you know, it's easy for me to say in hindsight, but I think yes.
I thought so too, and he even said it was too long to be on that tire. It just didn't do them any justice. So, could we have seen the results be different if that tire wasn't put on so early? I do agree with you as well. I think so too. Now, with Isaac's crash, really quick before we kind of wrap up this McLaren Red Bull talk, do you think Isaac is going to be able to shake this one off and kind of just move on to Canada and move forward? Or do you think this is just going to pile on the pressure that is already there for that second seat?
I really hope this doesn't pile on Isaac, this crash, and just kind of ruins his performance this year, because I will be devastated. I really do think, like, I'm rooting for him. And I really hope it doesn't, especially, you know, when he started in F1, like he had that race like in Australia, which was just terrible for him.
Yeah.
And he managed to bounce back from it. So I really do hope he still has that like mental strength to be like, okay, didn't go well this weekend, leave it in Miami and let's bring it this like in Montreal. But he's still a young driver, and I do think like incidents like this play on the minds more of like rookies and younger drivers, mainly because there is that much pressure. And as you mentioned, like being the second seat of a Red Bull to Max Verstappen, I don't want that pressure. I don't think anybody wants that pressure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping the atmosphere in Red Bull is a bit more different, since we've had a lot of personnel leave, and I kind of think Red Bull need to have a look at themselves and rebuild. So I'm hoping that this just let's just be nice to Isaac, okay? This was a mistake and he's gonna learn from it, please.
Yeah, I think too, if it would still be the old guard of Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, that he'd probably be feeling a lot more pressure around that crash. But I feel like he's okay. I think he's going to be able to turn it around and, like you said, leave it in Miami and come fresh in Canada. I think also the people around him that are there now and leading that team are a little bit more positive and a little less cutthroat. We haven't really seen that kind of like quick cut nature that Red Bull has historically brought kind of play in their favor. So I really hope they're able just to give Isaac, you know, some grace here and learnings. Also, we just came off a long break. He hasn't been in that car for like 4 or 5 weeks on a track. So yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be able to bring it as well in Canada. And I don't think he needs to fear being like cut, at least now, from Red Bull. But yeah, I'm cheering for him too, honestly. Because I think there's potential, especially seeing how these upgrades played for Max this weekend. Think there's potential to possibly see Isaac on the podium this year. If you asked me that at the end of the last race before this break, I would have said no. But the upgrades look great for both of these teams. So I think we'll see them fighting up at the front a lot more. Yeah, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. We mentioned Ferrari brought 11 upgrades this weekend, in addition to the majority of the teams bringing upgrades. I don't think we saw the full potential of Ferrari's upgrades this weekend just because of the conditions. Lewis Hamilton, obviously, with the damage to his car, we didn't really see a great performance from him, not a fault of his own. When you don't have that downforce and that car is not 100%, it's hard to kind of, you know, make the best of it. But one interesting thing is Lewis Hamilton, obviously, and Franco Colapinto had that little incident together, which kind of cost Lewis his race there. But Lewis, like, flicked off Colapinto. Like, Lewis Hamilton flicked somebody off. Like, oh my God. Like, what happened? Like, Yasmin, are you surprised by this? Like, who is this Ferrari Lewis Hamilton? Like, is this what Ferrari has done to him, driven him to this?
I didn't see this. Like, again, before we like start these podcasts, we always like have like, I guess, a debrief of what we're going to bring up and talk about. And you brought this up to me of like him flipping him off, and I'm like, I didn't see this bit. I did not see this bit.
It happened. I promise. Hand to God. He did it.
It's just like, I always feel like Lewis's first reaction when he gets annoyed is to come onto the radio to complain. So to see him just like right off, like just flip off somebody, okay, different
Yeah.
approach to usual. So it must have really annoyed him. Just a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe this is just a meaner new era Ferrari Lewis Hamilton, but I don't know.
He starts dating Kim Kardashian. Now he's flicking people off on track. Like, what's going on? No, I think honestly, it was a surprising action from Lewis Hamilton. We often see him take the high road, I guess we can put it. And he doesn't often act like that or respond like that, especially directly to other drivers. In that way. I think the reason, and we kind of just talked about this with Isaac Hadjar's crash, is when drivers know that like there's potential in the car and they have a great opportunity, and that gets ruined. They often react in an extreme way, which I think is totally understandable. Maybe not acceptable, but understandable. When you feel like you have a lot to give and a lot to, bring to that race and to your team at the end of it, and you don't get to do that because of something that happened to you that's out of your control. I understand that, but yeah, just very very surprising situation there. Lewis obviously didn't have a great race because of that. Kind of finished in the mid pack there. I believe he finished 6th. Yes, by the end of the day with everything going on. So still brought home some points, but probably not as much as he wanted to. And because of that damage, I don't think we saw a lot of the upgrades potential, at least with Lewis Hamilton. Now with Charles Leclerc, Yasmin, obviously such just a tumultuous race, I guess we could say, for him. What were your feelings as to just how we saw at least the upgrades play out this weekend? What do you think was working? What wasn't working? Is there more potential for them to improve? Or did these upgrades, do you feel like, even work?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of tell, again, like you mentioned about the upgrades with Ferrari, because you just didn't really see any of it. Just because of how their weekend went, it just wasn't a good weekend for them at all. Um, to be honest, while I was watching the race, especially with Charles and just everything that was happening with him, I was more thinking about you. I was like, is Brianna okay? Like, I hope she's okay. And I didn't know if you were watching the race live, so I just didn't text you. I was like, I'll find out Monday.
I appreciate that you think of me and like if I'm okay when things with Ferrari go down. The answer is probably no. So, but I appreciate you thinking of me. I do.
Yeah, I think every time I see anything Ferrari, good or bad, I'm like, Brianna, she okay? She okay? Um, so I was hoping it would be a more positive, like, upgrade bringing to Ferrari for you, Brianna, for you only. But yeah, it's such a hard, like, I can't say like yes, their upgrades work, and I don't even really know. I don't know what those 11 upgrades even are. I think really we're going to find out in Canada next week after. So it's going to be exciting. I'm more excited to see how Ferrari are going to perform at the next race, because I'm going to be really watching them and go, okay, now is the time to see if all those upgrades are basically just there for nothing or are actually doing a good job.
Yeah. And part of me wondered, was it the track as well? Like you said, we saw a huge jump in performance from Red Bull and McLaren, but I felt like I didn't see that happen with Ferrari. Obviously, the straight off the line speed is still there. It's fantastic. He was able to jump from 3rd to 1st, like within the first 2 corners, which is amazing. Their problem, and what we've talked about before, is just being able to keep the pace. Like, they're able to get ahead, which is fantastic, but they're not able to keep the pace. And that's what's killing them in the end. Like, they get ahead and then give it a couple laps and they lose it. And as good as a defender as you are, and with all these different things with boost and charge and stuff like that, pace is still incredibly important. If you can get all the way up to P1 within the first 30 seconds of every race is awesome. But if you can't hold it, it means nothing besides just making it a little bit more difficult for the ones behind you. So that's what I was hoping to see from Ferrari this weekend, was really like a jump in performance when it came to all around race pace. And it just wasn't there. Again, Charles did pit early for the hards, and I think I can say that he didn't agree with that by the radio messages going on and back and forth, or the lack thereof from Ferrari. Hearing that response, I don't know if I don't know why he pitted so early. I know obviously people were like, "Oh, rain, rain." I don't know if they were trying to like play around with that and see if they could pit early. What do you think was going on there, like in your opinion, with that early pit stop to the hards?
God knows this is Ferrari. Like strategy and Ferrari are just I don't know. They just are allergic to each other. Like I don't understand why this has been an ongoing problem with that team for like decades, for decades. And I think it's why every time I see like something wrong with the strategy with Ferrari, I like don't even want to bring it up in the podcast because I mention it every single like, and I'm sick of saying it. Um, I don't understand their thinking sometimes behind things, and this is gonna be, I think, just a problem with Ferrari until the day that team just either ceases to exist or they do something about it. Um, it's really frustrating. I don't get why they went to the hards. And then my brain is telling me no, we're not going there. We're not going there. But yeah,
From
so frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was like, okay, do they think rain is coming, but not enough to go to wet tires? So are they going to pit now for the hards, so they can kind of ride out this light rain that might come in a couple of the corners on track and then be ahead of everybody else if they pit for the wet tire? I don't know. Yeah, agreed. Part of me was like, are we trying to kind of think ahead when if rain comes? But they were one of the teams that's saying rain isn't coming. That was the interesting thing too, is the inconsistency with like what teams were saying about the rain was all over the place. Ferrari was like, we don't think the rain is coming. Some teams were like, the rain is coming, but only in these two corners. And other teams were like, the rain is coming in 5 laps and it'll be light. Like, no one was saying the same thing across the board. So part of me wondered if that was just what they were trying to do there, was like, okay, if light rain is coming, let's do this and take a chance on it. But it didn't play into their favor at all. And obviously, at the end of the race, Charles just made that mistake, spun his Ferrari around, damaged his suspension, which led to him losing all of those places at the end, and also led to his 20-second penalty that was handed to him at the end of the race, which ended up landing him in P8 at the end of the day. Just watching his interviews after the race was painful. He admitted that that was such a rookie mistake and it was his fault and he put that in the bin. But part of me wonders, were those tires just a little bit too cooked? We heard Max Verstappen saying like they were definitely done by the end. There were a lot of other drivers on the track this weekend dealing with tire degradation issues. What do you think, Yasmin? Do you think if he would have been on fresher tires, maybe that little rookie accident wouldn't have happened, or what happened either way?
I think it's definitely like an aspect. Like I'd think maybe he might have lost the rear a tiny bit, but he would have gained it back.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no saving that at all. And then it just made it worse when he hit the wall. And then I think he broke the was it a bit of the suspension?
Yeah.
So then he couldn't really turn right. And then he was going off the track, which to be honest, I think you know, with him going off the track, he obviously isn't doing this to gain an advantage. He literally cannot turn, which is why I kind of don't understand the 20-second penalty, because again, there's proof that he went into the wall, and the reason why why am I trying to explain this? Because I know that this is the FIA and they just want to make life difficult. It's so frustrating. To be honest, I'm glad that it was a 20-second time penalty and not like a 5-place grid penalty for the next race that we go to. So at
Mm-hmm.
least Charles can kind of just leave it in Miami and then try and bring it back next week. But
Yeah.
still annoying.
Your two favorite things to try and explain the FIA's reasoning and Ferrari strategy.
Like, why do I bother? I do this every week. Why do I bother doing this? And I get annoyed every time.
You really do. You really like go into a whole little frenzy. But no, I mean, like I think I also kind of batted my eyes when they came out with that penalty, more because they were like, oh, for swerving off the track for no apparent reason. And I was like, what do you mean no apparent reason? His car was broken. Did you want him to like just go into other cars instead of go off track so he didn't crash into the wall or another car? Like it just seems weird, but I agree. I'm glad it was a time penalty and nothing else. Because he already at that point, like you already weren't in good shape. You weren't going to get a ton of points out of it. So, but yeah, it was sad because he was definitely possibly going to be at least third on that podium. Obviously Oscar Piastri was definitely gaining on him by the end before, and that whole little mistake obviously had to do with, the pressure coming from Oscar. But yeah, at the end of the day, you're a driver that experienced. You shouldn't be making mistakes like that, regardless of your tire situation. And it ended up just ruining his entire race, which is kind of sad. But yeah, just not a great weekend for Ferrari. Not what we were hoping to see with the upgrades and the performance. But we'll see how this plays out in Montreal, and if we'll be able to see a little bit more of what these upgrades have to offer for that team, and hopefully they'll bring some learnings. Let's talk about two of the teams that were at the bottom. Aston Martin, obviously, and Cadillac, which was a little bit of a bummer. Obviously, they have done a pretty decent job with being an entirely brand new team, coming up from scratch, being American as well, and having their first home race this weekend in Miami. They've been doing decent. I think a lot better than a lot of people expected Cadillac to be in. But this weekend was just not their weekend. It didn't look great. They had some upgrades, but they still seemed to really struggle. Both Perez and Bottas were mentioning having trouble with the tire drag. Yasmin, what do you think was going on here with this team kind of being at the bottom this weekend, and also it being their first home Grand Prix wasn't a great showing?
Yeah, the pressure of having your home Grand Prix is, like I could imagine, especially when you're such like a brand new team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then Miami is so hot as well with dealing with tires not performing the best. Let's just go with that. Is gonna be a big issue if they can't kind of get a hold of that, because they're gonna just continue to be at the bottom if their tires continue to wear like this.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing a new team like in the sport, especially because I just want them to do so well. I still root for Haas, even though let's not talk about Haas. So it was really disappointing to see, but again, I'm giving them benefit of the doubt, and hopefully we'll see better performances from them as well. Because Perez and Bottas are extremely experienced drivers, and I really do think they will be able to be like, okay, this isn't working in the car, we need to change this, and it will bring the team up and kind of more forward. But I think it's kind of funny how Cadillac have previously been doing, like, I think better than Aston Martin, which should not even be close. Like, Aston Martin we shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here.
Yeah, Aston Martin had another tough race. But on the positive, both cars finished, which is crazy that we're over here celebrating that your car started the race and ended it. Alonso finishing in 15th, Stroll finishing in 17th this weekend. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what's going on in this team. They didn't bring any upgrades, which part of me was like, that seems like a missed opportunity. But also I'm like, okay, yeah, don't bring upgrades, because you need to get that car into a place where you can bring upgrades to it. Like, it needs to work. Both Alonso and Stroll did say reliability seems to be a bit better. They've seemed to be able to fix and work that out. Alonso also mentioned the vibrations are much better. They're still there, but tolerable and not to what they were before. So that's a positive. But Yasmin, I feel like this is probably going to be the last weekend we talk about this situation until they improve the next step, because it's just so sad to see a team this far down at the bottom, and a team that was like, we're going to be winning championships in 2026, and they could barely, this is the first time they finished a race, and it's the 4th race of the season. Like, I can't believe we're talking about this and that this team is where they're at. Even though they did finish the race this weekend, do you think that's a big enough improvement for them to kind of start to take bigger steps now, or do you think it's a lost cause?
No. Next question. I'll see yous when you're up the grid a wee bit, because I can't watch. It's like a horror show. Like, I'm expecting a jump scare every race weekend. Like you said, I'm not surprised they didn't bring upgrades, because they need to bring a whole new car. They don't need to be bringing upgrades. It's like back to the drawing board, scrap all this. We're doing the opposite of everything that we've been doing, because none of it's working. And it's heartbreaking to see. And if Daniela was here, I would say that I would be remaining optimistic, but I'm just not anymore. Aston Martin haven't been anywhere since 2023? Was it when they were doing well?
So when they had some podiums and then weren't able to build off of that either. Yeah, honestly, from a business standpoint as well, being a team, I am worried for them if they'll even be on the grid. I mean, I know Lawrence Stroll has literally, like, he's Daddy Warbucks. He has so much money. But, like, I would be absolutely fuming if I put this much money into a team and this is where we were. They literally have just gone downhill since stuff has gone on. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the inner workings of the team, morale, culture. I'm sure it does play a part in it. But the fact that you've put so much money into something and this is where you're at is terrifying. And you've brought some of the best talent that there is into this team, and it's gotten worse. So yeah, I agree with you, Yasmin. I feel like we're just going to stop bringing them up because it's horrible and they're at where they're at, and we hope that they can get it together. I mean, I don't have much hopes besides them being like in the midfield maybe by the end of this year, but I feel like we just need to like stop talking about them because I don't think anything's going to change really, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know what? I kind of find it funny that Adrian Newey has a book called like How to Build a Car or something. It's like that, isn't it? It's like, girl, we gotta read this again because we need to know how to build a F1 car right now.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I think it's not, and I think we've talked about this in the past, so I'm not going to elaborate too much on this right now, but it's not all Adrian Newey. It's the collective team and also just communication between people building all the different parts and bringing that together. You can't work in silos and not communicate with each other and expect just to come together at the beginning of the season and throw this thing together and it's going to work. It's very obvious that the power unit providers, the relationship with Honda, Drew Newey and his team, and all the rest of the people leading that team, it's so disconnected. And that's why you're seeing a car that has been put together that feels completely disconnected. Every part of it is not working together, and that just screams that the communication lines between all of those teams were non-existent. So they got to figure that out, and until they figure that out, I don't think they'll be able to do anything. So a shame that they weren't able to bring anything to this race, but also understandable seeing that they need to get the car to work first. Like, that is their biggest task. They seem to succeed at that this weekend, so thumbs up positive there, but nothing crazy. So we'll bring up Aston Martin again when we see them in the mid-pack. But yeah, not great, and not a great weekend for Cadillac. I think there's still a lot of learnings going on there. Obviously, only their 4th race in Formula One, just happened to be their home race, so you got a lot of pressure there, but they're still learning, they're still growing. And obviously the heat and the tire deg was difficult for them. Hopefully Canada won't be too hot, but we never know. Canada is one of those races that brings every kind of weather, literally every kind of weather. For the past several years, there's been like rain, extreme heat, crazy thunder. Like, it's just wild. So we'll see how they're able to handle that. But obviously there are a couple of races that we know tend to be very hot. Singapore. So hopefully they can get a handle on it before some of those races where we know that heat is going to come into play. All right, let's end this show on a positive note because our boy Kimi Antonelli, hat trick this weekend, 3 wins in a row. Just absolutely fantastic. A great performance from him as well. I mean, I think he could win the championship. I'm saying it right now. At first, with his first 2 wins, I was like, okay, first 2 wins. The other teams seem to really be struggling a bit with the new design and regs of the car, but Mercedes had just seemed to nail it. So part of me was kind of like, is this just because other people are floundering and Mercedes has been able to start on this kind of like stability? Obviously, their speed off the line was something they needed to improve. But Yasmin, how are you feeling about this? Obviously, Kimi with his 3rd win, he's now 20 points ahead of George Russell in the lead here of the championship. Are you excited? Are you hopeful? Do you think Kimi could win? What's going on?
I am absolutely buzzing for Kimi Antonelli. I'm so hyped. Like, oh, he's so young, and I know this is like doesn't really matter in the scheme of things, but to be this young and have all this success and to be such a lovely kid as well, as a kid, like I'm 22, um, and to just be doing so well, I'm so happy for him, especially when I remember when he joined Mercedes and people were like, is this the right choice? Like, why step him up so early? And it just shows that, like, yeah, Toto Wolff was right. He's ready and he could win this championship easily. And that has to sting for George Russell, for your like teammate to be 20 points above you when you have worked so hard to get number one, get into Mercedes, and number two, like be the number one driver. I know Russell mentioned in his post-race interviews that he's not worried about it. This is just kind of how racing goes, and he still has time to kind of make up the points, and he still has confidence that he can get the lead. But I really do think that them two will eventually butt heads, and I can't wait to watch it, to be honest.
You're here for the drama. You love it. We love it. Yeah, I am so happy for Kimi also because we're just seeing what I think is the future and new generation and talent of Formula One just develop right before our eyes, which is very, very exciting. And to be so young and to be able to put in these performances and now seeing 3 wins in a row just says like the consistency is most likely there, which is really exciting. Now, again, last year he did have a bit of a dip in the middle of the season, but I mean, he didn't have these types of successes and riding on this high either. Yeah, and also my heart just goes out to George Russell a bit. I know people have like a certain about George or like, oh, he gives me the ick. But just thinking of his career, and I was saying this to my husband yesterday, like the poor kids had at Williams when they sucked so much, just waiting for that Mercedes seat to open up. It opens up. He finally gets into Mercedes, and then they're absolute garbage. And then the season where they're good again and have a potential to possibly take them to the championship, he's got this new prodigy in the seat next to him. Like, could he have any worse luck? I don't think so. But that being said, the skill is going to shine through. Your talent is going to shine through. And unfortunately, if someone is better than you, whether he's 18 years old or something like that, it doesn't matter. Like, you still have to come with that talent and that the want to want it. So if Kimi is better than George, and Kimi is better than George. And there's nothing George can do about that except for try to work on himself. But part of me is kind of like, oh man, I remember watching him at Williams and just being like, someone give this kid another car. Like, because he was doing amazing things with that Williams when it was absolutely garbage. And I think a lot of us were looking forward to seeing his success in another team with Mercedes, but it just hasn't played out in the way I thought it was going to play out for George. I don't know if you feel the same way, Yasmin.
No, I feel the same way as you. I really did think that George would just automatically have this lead against Antonelli. I think all of us did. So to see it kind of be flipped on its head a bit is entertaining for us, but painful for George.
Yeah.
But again, we are still so early in the season. Like, we are in round 4. I feel like this season feels so long because we had such a long break.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I don't know. I just get giddy because like it could just go anywhere. And this is what I love about Formula One is just that like we could go anywhere.
Yeah.
It could be Kimi, or it could be someone all the way down the other side of the grid, because with these cars that are so unpredictable, we're still learning about them, and then upgrades. I just cannot wait. Give me Canada right now. I want to watch it.
Give us Montreal. Yeah, and Kimmy even said that in his post-race interview. Like, it's still really early, but like I'm happy for these wins. I think it's the confidence boost that he's going to hopefully ride into the next couple of races as well. But like we said, with these big improvements that we saw this weekend with Red Bull and McLaren and hopefully Ferrari, it could make it definitely harder for Kimi to possibly win the championship. And we know Lando Norris, I think now, especially we saw this weekend, like he wants to fight to keep that spot. He doesn't want to lose number 1. But I mean, McLaren still seems to have great race pace and still that little bit extra above some of these other teams that's really making them stand out. So we have no idea. Mercedes brought upgrades also this weekend as well. And like you said, it's so early in the season, more upgrades could be coming. They will be coming, actually. So we will see how those all play out. But just really excited to see him win another race. I think he did a fantastic job as well. Just the whole race. Obviously, he was dealing with degradation and also just overheating as well. So that's a tricky balance to balance while you're driving, doing that from behind. And then once you get in the front, trying to manage that as well and keep that first place. So well done, Kimi. Well done. Really showing us what you're made of. And it's so exciting to watch maybe a new Formula One prodigy just blossom right before our eyes. And he's so cute. He's just so adorable. And that little whale necklace that he wears all the time, I'm like, where did you get that? Like, where did you, like, it seems very 90s. Like when I was a 90s kid, we used to wear those like choker necklaces with like whales or like whatever on them and like puka shell necklaces. And I'm like, what made you make that fashion choice?
I love how that's your closing words to this podcast today. The wheel necklace is great, guys. Anyway, next week we'll see you.
It's just like every time I see him wear it, I'm like, what, are we really into whales? Do we support the whales? Like, what, we wear that all the time. It's very beachy. Like, I just want to know. We obviously know him as stylist, because if we did, we wouldn't be wearing the whale tail beach necklace. That's all I have to say. But it just reminds you also just like how young he is and how just like cute he is. He's so young.
Can we keep up the whale necklaces? We love it here at the Fast.
Yeah, protect the whales. Protect the whales. Maybe he's a big whale protection supporter. I don't know. Anyways. Thank you guys, honestly, for joining us for this episode. It's been fun. There's so much to talk about. We were so happy to see cars back on track. We obviously didn't get even to talk about every single thing that happened in this race because there was so much, but we always want to make sure we bring you the top pieces of the news. We hope you enjoyed this race too. We have a little bit of a break before Canada. So another break, which is like, oh my God, seriously, like, why are we on another break? The weekend of May 24th will be Montreal. So what, 2 weeks? That's 2 weeks? 3 weeks? Is it 3 weeks?
No, it's not 3 weeks. No, please.
Oh, just when you get us excited. We gotta wait 3 more weeks, but don't worry, we'll still be bringing you content and news from the F1 world until then. But we will see you guys in the fast lane. Bye-bye.
Hello, fly chick coming through. Nice to meet you, glad you came too. Like you said when you know